highly recommend that you go and see it. And with that, I would like to invite the moderator, the introducer for this session, Kersi Shroff. Kersi's been part of the program committee and is also Fazana's co-chair for research and preservation. Kersi Shroff.
Well, good morning all. Isn't this like meeting at our Darameres and centers on a Sunday morning? Well, I don't want to take the analogy too far. I'm Kersi Shroff, and it's my privilege to introduce this morning's session on One Zarathushtra, Many Zarathushtis. Iraqi Kurds reclaim their heritage. Under the Congress's main theme of bridging the global Zarathushti existence, the session embarks on a journey to a region in the Middle East where a religious renaissance is said to be occurring. This phenomena can be traced to a law enacted in 2015 by the Kurdistan Regional Government of Iraq. The law officially protects religious minorities in Iraqi Kurdistan, and allows its citizens to freely declare their religious affiliation by selecting a religion. Such a law is very unique for a Muslim state or a region to have. In the roughly 6 years after its passage, the law has empowered the Kurdistan Regional Government to proudly declare, and I quote, "We are not only Muslim, we are also Christian, Jewish, Yazidi, Sabaean Mandaean, Zoroastrian, Kirkuk, and Baha'i." This was said by none other than Mr. Nashirwan Barzani, president of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, in a publication titled Kurdistan for All. The publication was issued recently in September 2021. The session today will be introduced by Mr. Matthew Travis Barber, who will introduce to you our specially invited guest, Mrs. Faiza Fuad, a leading advocate of Zoroastrianism from the region. Matthew will conduct a fireside chat. It's July, but still we'll manage it, so that we can learn more about the presence and practice of Zoroastrianism in Iraqi Kurdistan. Matthew himself has been a fortunate find for us, having conducted on-the-ground research of minority communities in Iraq. He is a University of Chicago PhD candidate who has studied Islamic thought and modern Middle East history. He was centrally involved in the response to the Yazidi genocide and served as director of a humanitarian organization that developed aid and advocacy programs for the Yazidi community. His research and publications have dealt with political and human rights issues facing Middle Eastern minorities. These have included a report on the mass graves of Yazidis, surveys of the situation of Assyrian and Christian communities in Syria and Iraq, and a historical overview of the Yazidi genocide. Equally importantly, having long followed the Kurdish Zoroastrian movement, Matthew is completing a book that explores its history, literature, and personal journeys of its members. In doing his research, Matthew has spent more than 2 years in Iraq, spread over a total period of 12 years. Please join me in welcoming Matthew to the floor.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to introduce Faiza Fuad to this amazing group. Faiza Fuad is one of the most active individuals in the Kurdish Zoroastrian movement in Iraq and Iraqi Kurdistan. She began translating articles about Zoroastrianism into the Kurdish language in the 1980s. As an activist for many years, she has promoted knowledge about Zoroastrianism within Kurdish society. In the 1990s, she began to publicly identify as a Zoroastrian. And in 2006, she founded an organization in her city of Kirkuk that, in addition to humanitarian work, has worked to raise public awareness of and provide education about Zoroastrianism, as well as hosting gatherings for the observance of Zoroastrian religious holidays. In 2019, she published a Kurdish translation of the Gathas. Faiza has a long history of performing humanitarian, human rights, and advocacy work on behalf of children, women, and religious minorities, including volunteering with an Olaf Palme organization and with Save the Children. In the mid-1990s, she contributed to the genocide documentation efforts of the Committee for Defending and Fall Victims' Rights. In 2007, she was featured at a conference in Italy where she spoke on Kurdish Zoroastrians and the challenges for minorities in Iraq. More recently, she has published an introductory booklet on the Zoroastrian minority that is utilized in minority rights advocacy trainings and workshops in Kurdistan and Iraq. Faiza has volunteered for many years with an alliance of Iraqi minorities. With the alliance, she participated in efforts to prepare and advocate for the parliamentary approval for a minority rights law. Largely due to the alliance's advocacy, these efforts were successful, and in 2015, the Kurdistan Parliament passed Minority Rights Law number 5, which establishes the rights of a range of religious minorities in the Kurdistan region, and significantly, for the first time, recognizes Zoroastrians as one of Kurdistan's religious communities. Faiza is now focusing on efforts to reform Iraqi K-12 educational curricula so that it will be more inclusive of religious minorities, including Zoroastrians. She is also currently collaborating with the American Zoroastrian organization Janu Harad. I have been following the Kurdish Zoroastrian movement for many years, and Faiza is one of the many active Zoroastrians whom I have gotten to know. The purpose of this session today is to help us better get to know the Kurdish Zoroastrian community. And I think that Faiza's story can offer us a window into their experiences, both as Kurds and as Zoroastrians. So in this session, I'm going to ask Faiza a number of questions about her journey so that we can learn about her. So it's a great pleasure for me to facilitate this conversation with her today. Let's welcome Faiza.
Thank you.
Well, it's really nice to be here with you today.
Thank you. Really.
So to begin with, let me ask some questions that will help us get to know you a little bit better and learn a little bit about your background. Can you tell us something about your early life, where you come from?
My name is Faiza Fuad. I born in Kirkuk. Kirkuk is a city in northern part of Iraq, and it has mixed population: Kurds, Arab, Turkmen, and Christians. And the city is rich of oil, and this richness made a lot of conflict.
There's been a lot of conflict because of this oil,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
What was it like to grow up in Kirkuk during the rule of the Ba'ath regime in Iraq?
Really, it wasn't safety. I'm talking about my family. For my family, it wasn't easy to live in because a lot of time we have visitors from security members visiting our house and asking a lot of questions because we weren't member. No one in my family were member in Ba'ath party. And because some of my relatives, often, but we were Kurd, and some of my relatives, because they joined Peshmerga forces, and their property has been seized. So they pay this visit to our house.
So the Peshmerga are Kurdish freedom fighters that fought the Iraqi state to defend the rights of Kurds. And some of your relatives belong to them.
Yes.
And that would prompt the security forces visiting your house. No one wants to be visited by secret police, by security.
Exactly.
And also because your family didn't belong to the Ba'ath party, so
Yeah,
it made you a
this was
target.
one of the problem. So these all these pressure forced my father eventually to participate in the Peshmerga forces.
Okay, so he joined. And there was also a lot of violence against Kurdish people in these years as well, correct?
Yes, of course. By my eyes, I see this. We saw a lot of violence against the Kurds, especially suspect that this person is cooperating or helping Peshmerga, or he is not member in Ba'ath member, or he participates in any kind of demonstration. So these people will be tortured because there was a special bureau for torture in Kirkuk. A lot of people who were participated in demonstration lost their life, or they have been disappeared. Sometimes they bury their bodies in secret.
So there was a special bureau for torture in Kirkuk,
Yes.
and people would disappear. Did this happen to anyone that you know?
Yes, two of my relatives arrested, then they lost their life by torturing, and they prevent the family to make any ceremony. When they buried them, they have to bury them in secret.
So they forbid them from holding a
Exactly.
funeral for
Exactly.
these people. It's a
Exactly.
terrible thing. You told me, I think, when we were talking before, you told me about a neighbor of yours named, or a woman.
Yes. This story is one of many stories that we faced. There was a woman, she has only one son. His name was Hiwa. Hiwa means hope. Hiwa participated in a demonstration. Then he arrested, and he never seen again. The mother was not eating, and also she was waiting her son nearby her door every night till 2 a.m. When we ask why you are not eating, or you are waiting anyone, she says, I am waiting Hiwa. She never seen Hiwa again, and one night we found her dead.
That's a very powerful and sad story. So Hiwa means hope, and she was hoping he would return home.
Yeah, exactly, because
And-
he was 19 years old.
And he only participated in demonstrations, but for
Just-
that, he was disappeared.
Yes.
And
I
she,
never
and she
seen
sat
him.
in the doorway every night
Yes.
till 2 a.m.
It's just one story of many stories that we face.
But it's someone you knew, and that's what makes it powerful to
Exactly.
hear.
Exactly.
And this kind of violence, it climaxed in the 1980s with the Anfal genocide, when Saddam eventually used chemical weapons against the Kurds. So you were born in 1968, and the peak of the Anfal was 88, so you would have been
20.
20.
Yes.
Were you aware of what was going on around you at that time, and how did it impact you?
Yes, of course, because they brought 100,000 of Kurds people, women, children, and also men to Kirkuk in a city called Topzawa. They collect them, then they separate male from children and women. The men from 12 above, till now we don't know anything about their destiny. They completely disappeared, and even we cannot find their mass graves. Women and children, most of them have been buried in mass grave. And I think you heard about these mass graves, and some of them came back with a lot of suffer. 19% in my mother's side family found in mass grave in Mosul.
19 people just from your mother's side of
From
the
my mother.
family
Yes,
disappeared and were found in a mass
Yes.
grave.
yeah, they could find, we could know them because their identity, and because it was covered with plastic,
Mhm.
so we know that.
Yeah, the plastic on the ID cards
Exactly.
preserved,
Exactly.
yeah. It's incredible that people had to endure this, and the 1980s weren't even the end of the problem, because then in 1991, there was a big Kurdish uprising against the government. That also put a lot of people in danger because of the government reaction, right?
Yeah, right. In 1991, my entire family forced to flee from Kirkuk to the mountain on the border of Iran.
How old were you then?
I was 22 years old,
Too.
and we know we will face the same destiny of Anfal victims. So we flee there, and we were not sure that we can come back again to our house, because we were, during when we flee, there was shelling and.
How did you
constantly
flee
bombardment.
from Kirkuk to the mountains?
Most of us was walk to the border because.
Walking.
Yes, because we have only one car, and the car cannot fit all of.
The car couldn't carry everyone. how long did it take for your family to walk to the Iranian border?
14 to 15 days.
14 or 15 days. That's a very terrible experience that I think most people can't really relate to. Was your family able to come back to your home in Kirkuk?
Yes, my family, after that, after 5 months in the border, they came back, but I could not go back to Kirkuk. All our property has been looted, and they could stay in Kirkuk for another 2 years. After that, they expelled them with many
They
families.
expelled them after
Yes,
2 years from
2
when they
years
came back?
from Kirkuk,
Mhm.
with many Kurd family to Suleymaniya.
Okay.
Yes, and they came to Suleymaniya, and this was the beginning of our life in Suleymaniya.
So your family lost their home?
Yes,
Their-
really, our house was very big. They gave our house to some Arab families member in Ba'ath Party. Then they ruined the house. They built 3 houses on it.
Mm.
From 1995 till now, we cannot bring back our
So they
property.
divided the land and
Exactly.
built 3 houses on it
Yes.
for other people, and you haven't been able to go
No,
there since
till now, we
1995.
did not succeed to bring back our house.
This is an incredible journey and a very difficult one. I'm curious, how did all of these experiences affect you, and how did they shape your values?
Really, I faced a horrible situation, but it wasn't only me. So
Can you check your microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was young and I'm graduated from a college, so I have to tell what happening to me. And I decided to make my direction. So my direction was toward humanitarian work because I found there's a lot of people, they were suffering more than Pfizer, IDPs, internal displaced people, and also people who survived from unfile process. So I met with some friends, a committee for defending unfile victims, and I worked on humanitarian matters as a volunteer. So I think this made a new or create new FISA.
A new FISA created.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all of this suffering, and you decided to help others that you thought were suffering more than you. It's
Exactly.
amazing. This is really a beautiful journey, but a very painful one. It's really an honor to hear your story. And I want to shift things now. We've learned a lot about your background and the experience, where you come from. Let's talk about your relationship with Zoroastrianism and your encounter with Zoroastrianism. I would like to know, when was the first time you ever heard of it? When was the first time you heard about Zoroastrianism?
First thing, my family, side my family, really my grandmother was, before she passed away, she talked to me that we have a Zoroastrian background. And she told them a lot of things about Zoroastrian. Unfortunately, I could not talk to her because she died when I was a child. But then my father to us that we have Zoroastrian background.
So your grandmother told the family that there was a Zoroastrian background, and you didn't get to know her because she passed away when you were young, but you learned this from your father.
Yes.
So even as a child, you had kind of a basic idea about Zoroastrianism.
Exactly, because my grandmother, she's from Mahabad city.
In Iran.
Yes.
And what kind of things were you aware of? You learned about Zoroastrianism as a child. You learned this idea, but did you know anything about it?
Yeah, we know that we have a prophet named Zarathushtra. And in my community, you can find a lot of male people called son Zarathushtra, Mazda, and also the female called Avesta, Yasna, this name has come for us.
Mm.
And we know that these words belong to Zoroastrianism. So these things are common. And also in our culture, there are a lot of things that belong to Zoroastrian. For example, if someone loses someone very close to him, Kosti
Kosti Kotua.
Kotua.
Maybe we should switch to these, to the handheld mic. Can you do that? Because that mic keeps. Okay.
It means this person lost his kushti or cost. That means kushti or cost mean a lot of things. It's your personality, it's everything for you. So this say is common in our culture.
Okay, let me see if I understand it right. So if someone loses someone close to them, someone passes away close to this person,
Yes,
about the person who's still alive, you say Kosti Kotua,
exactly.
which means they lost their coast,
Cost, kushti.
okay, so you see this, it's because it's something very valuable, like the
Ex-
person that they lost has a value that's similar to the value of this belt that means so
Exactly.
much. And you interpreted this as evidence that something from Zoroastrianism was in Kurdish culture. That's
Yes, also, till now, we saw Kurdish men when they wear Kurdish uniform, the belt they have, it has 3 notes. It means good thing and good deed, also good words.
good thought, good
Yeah.
words, and good deeds. This
Yeah.
is what the 3 knots in this belt represent.
Exactly.
Okay. So you had some kind of vague idea about Zoroastrianism as a child. When was the first time that you really got an introduction to the religion?
When I was 15 years, I found an article belonged to a person, Lebanese author. He was talking about Zoroaster. So I was very interested because I found something like you say, explaining what is Zoroastrian. So I decided to translate it. I translated from Arabic to Kurdish and sent it to a magazine in order to be published.
Okay. And then what about the Gathas? Did you learn about it at that time, or because I know this is something important to you?
Really, when I was working in a committee for defending and fall victim, we have a visitor from America. She's a Kurdish called Pari Karadari. She brought a magazine called published in America. It has a long article about Zoroastrian written by Dr. Ali Jafari. When I read it, really, I was excited because I found something in it. This thing was the Gatha. It is the first time I read something about the Gatha, and I decided to translate it. Then it was published in some newspaper in Kurdistan. Yes.
And when was the first time you decided to call yourself a Zoroastrian? When did that happen?
Really, when I was working in the Committee for Defending a Fall Victim, I told you, but when I translated the Gatha, really, it made me to cry.
You cried?
Yes.
What was so powerful about it that affected you that way?
Because I found myself. I was lost. I found myself when I was working. I found a lot of parallel things in the Gatha related to human rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And because I was working in a committee for defending victims of Anfal of genocide, so that put me in a situation. How come I believe in a religion that's killing me? So I decided from this time on, I will be a real Zoroastrian. And really, I prepared myself because I want a lot of humanitarian work. So these works made me to make a new step in my life and be, as I told you.
Wow.
Yes. New
And this
FISA.
was in the 1990s that you were working on for the Committee for Defending and Fall Victims.
Yes, yes.
So in what ways did becoming Zoroastrian change your life?
Really, the Zoroastrian, as I told you, changed my life when I saw some articles or when I read that Zoroaster, during his teaching, when he was dealing with people, he was not forcing anyone. He was giving you a chance to choose, to think, then to decide which way you have to choose. This made me, to give me the chance to have, to think that if I am Zoroastrian, I will have the chance to choose anything I can do for the best of the humanity. And also, I found that God is not forcing you, or God will not kill us because we don't believe in a particular religion. God is our friend. I learned that from when I read all this about the Gatha. God is our friend. God created woman because woman is creator. And this is, I am woman. I have to think about that, how God is respecting me as a woman in the Gatha. So these all things made Faiza to believe that
Wow,
I need to be Zoroastrian.
that's a very powerful journey. Mhm. Can you share with me some things in Zoroastrian religion that are meaningful to you?
There are a lot of things in Zoroastrianism to be powerful, but the most powerful for me was Hamisha Spenta.
Hamisha Spenta.
Yes, Hamisha Spenta, these 6 principles, everyone has to bring it to his soul and to make it. For me, I made these 6 principles as a roadmap in my life, also in my works. Vohomana is the first thing that begin with Spenta, Hamisha Spenta. Vohomana means the best thinking. We say the best thinking is belong to the God, belong to Aura Mazda. But we can't do the same as Aura Mazda did. Not exactly what he did, but we can do, well, we can use our mind in the best way for the best of the humanity, to respect nature, to respect other religion, also to respect humanity, and also animal and even plant in order to be or to make the world safety for everyone.
So it's called Vahumana.
Vahumana,
Vahumana. This is one of the
Hamisha Spenta.
Hamisha Spenta.
Yes.
So if someone like me who is not a Zoroastrian and doesn't know very much about it, but if I want to bring Vahumana into my life, how can I practice it?
Yeah, it's easy because everyone, as Zoroastrian said, if you want to do something, you have, first thing, you think about this thing. So you have to use the best thinking in order to do something to be immortal in your life. This is the first step in order to reach the last step of Vahumana.
So there's a goal for you in how you use Vahumana.
Yes. And also, as I told you, we cannot be God, but we can be a person who is helping God as a friend. As Zoroaster said, we can be a friend of the God in order to create world for everyone.
I think you mentioned to me once, was it Saoshyant?
Saoshyant, yes.
Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I liked what you told me about it.
Saoshyant also is one of the most powerful things that Zoroaster mentioned it. Saoshyant is a person who can bring happiness to everyone, or people who's surrounding him. Because Zoroaster said, you cannot be happy if the people are surrounding you are not happy. So Saoshyant is very important to me, and I want to be Saoshyant.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. You can tell I don't know very much about Zoroastrianism. I've been following the Kurds who are becoming Zoroastrian, but I have to learn more about it from her. So this has been really interesting to learn about your relationship with this faith that has become your faith. Thank you so much for all of these things you've shared with us. I want to ask you now, let's change the focus a little bit and talk about what's happening in Kurdistan, the other people, the community of Kurdish Zoroastrians and this movement that's growing. Tell us why Zoroastrianism matters so much to some Kurdish people.
Yes, Kurd is a nation. We are suffering a lot because we have been separated. Kurd needs to rebuild themselves. They need to rebuild their thinkings because when we were Zoroastrian, we were Madian, we were Akhmenian, and Hachamanshian, we were Sasanian. And where we are. So we have to bring back our glory. For that, the Kurd need to rebuild their thinking and also to rebuild themselves.
And the Kurds who have become Zoroastrian now, how are they practicing their religion?
Really, in Kurdistan, it is very easy to practice your religion because KRG government is very cooperative.
The Kurdish Regional Government? Mhm.
Exactly, with Zoroastrian. And as Kirsty mentioned, the president mentioned Zoroastrian, and they respect the Zoroastrian because we are the hope of Kurdistan.
And what kind of things are Kurds doing to follow this faith?
Yes, we have a lot of ceremonies. We practice our ceremonies because we don't have a formal temple. We do these ceremonies.
What kind of ceremonies?
Ceremonies, Navjud, Koshti ceremony, and we have wedding ceremony, Gahna bars, and Navruz, Yalda night, and also Mehergan.
Okay, so there's a lot that's happening. It sounds like it's very public. Is it safe for people to publicly leave Islam and profess that they have embraced Zoroastrianism? Is that safe in Kurdistan? What about, I know there's been some cases of some Islamic religious leaders speaking out against this Zoroastrian movement. So how does this work?
It differs. In Kurdistan, it is easy because people, they come to our organization and they want to put kushti or they need any activity that Zoroastrian participated in, they participate with us. It is easy in Kurdistan because, as I told you, KRG is cooperating the Zoroastrian. And also because we have law number 5. Law number 5 is regarding the minorities' right, especially the religious minorities' right. This is one of the issues that no one can breach this law. So being Zoroastrian, you are safe in Kurdistan, but other part of Iraq, it is a little bit
outside of the Kurdistan region.
Exactly.
It's not as safe.
Yes.
So the Kurdistan government they're taking some steps to protect the Zoroastrian community. What about that? That's good that exists at the level of the law. What about the level of general society?
General society, from time to time, we hear from some religious man, especially from Islam, a little bit, some matters they want to do a trend against the Zoroastrian, but Ministry of Awqaf or Endowment persecuted some of them, and also some of them has been fired.
Prosecuted. They've
Yes.
prosecuted some of them.
Some of them, and also some of them has been fired from the mosque, and they don't let them to be in any
So
mosque
the
anymore.
government fired mullahs from the mosque that they worked at for insulting
Exactly.
Zoroastrians.
Zoroastrians.
That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
What about violence at the level of society? Have any Zoroastrian people been attacked by individuals?
Individuals, yes. In Kirkuk, as I told you, we have an organization. This organization working on Zoroastrian matters. We lost one of our members in 2016. He got a lot of threatened, but he was insisted to be a Zoroastrian. Unfortunately, he lost his life. So this forced us to work a little bit quiet.
So Kirkuk is outside the Kurdistan region. It's not as safe. This man was a member of your organization.
Yes.
He was killed and you believe he was killed because he was Zoroastrian?
Yeah, because he got a lot of threatened.
He was
by
threatened
my-
beforehand.
Yes.
He was threatened. He
Yes.
received threats.
Yes.
Okay. I'm really sad to hear that happened. That's a tragic loss of life. I suppose it shows that this is still a really serious situation. Even with the good things that are happening, people still have to be very careful.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now you have brought some pictures to show us of some of the activities that you've been mentioning today and some of the activities that Kurdish Zoroastrians are doing. So let's take a look at those now and you can tell us about them. What, oh, I see you. You have a bright yellow sweater on, right?
Yes.
What's going on in this picture?
This is a group belong to Alliance for Iraqi Minorities Network. This members is religious minorities. We participated in a lot of workshop in order to work on law number 5.
So it's the Alliance of Iraqi Minorities.
Yes,
So all of these people belong to different Iraqi minorities and you are the
Exactly.
Zoroastrian in the
yeah,
group.
I'm representing the Zoroastrian.
Mhm.
And we work on law number 5 regarding minorities' right.
That's when this picture
Yeah,
was taken.
and it was a great work then issued by KRG or Kurdistan Parliament. So this was one of the things that we are proud
Okay, great.
to do.
And what about this?
Yeah, this is the first Anjuman or Anjuman for.
What's an Anjuman?
These people are representative of major city in Kurdistan and also out Kurdistan. We joined-
Zoroastrians.
Yes.
From those,
Yeah,
from
all
different
of
cities.
them are Zoroastrian. We joined a lot of meeting in order to create an assembly called the High Assembly for Kurds.
Mhm.
They are representing people from Duhok, Kirkuk, Hanakim, Halabja, Suleimania, and
Okay.
Arbil also.
And the purpose is to
Yes,
coordinate.
to work together and coordinate our work as
Okay.
Zoroastrian.
All right, what's happening in this picture?
This is a lecture in Kirkuk University. Some of the minorities that they are living in Kirkuk, as you see, Sabias, Radashti, Paili, and also Yarsani or Kakais, and there were other minorities also. We want to make Kirkuk more safe for minorities in order not to lose our life. So we arranged this in Kirkuk University for some students and scholars.
So it's a kind of public outreach to educate the community more about the different minority groups, and you were speaking
Exactly,
about
and
Zoroastrianism.
or minorities community,
Well, it's great that you're given that kind of public platform in the country.
yes. This is me. It was a big ceremony we participated in as Alliance of Iraqi Minorities and Ministry of Education, Ministry of Endowment, the representative of Prime Minister and Presidency Bureau. We celebrate the success that we made a lot of change in the curricula.
To the curricula, to the
Yes.
grade school and high
Yes.
school curriculum. Now, I know this is a project you've been working on quite a lot. It matters a lot to you. And so this was celebrating changes that were made,
Yeah.
reforms.
And prepare the curriculum to be printed.
What kind of changes were made to the curriculum?
It was a big project because it wasn't just the Zoroastrian. 8 minorities participated. So in every book, if you see 8 change, it will be a great work. So we are
So the
still-
curriculum now includes some discussion of these 8?
Yeah, before I came here, there was a big discussion in Kurdistan about how reading just one religion, it was Islam religion, they don't have the right to change it, but everything it has been
So the
done.
curriculum before it was only teaching about one religion, even though there
Exactly,
are quite a
just
lot of
Islam.
religions
Yes.
in Iraq. And that's what you were, so does this apply to the whole country or just to the curriculum in the Kurdistan region?
No, this one is just for Kurdistan region, but we are working on Iraq, like
The Iraqi curriculum. for the-
exactly with the Ministry of Education. But there is a problem because in the constitution of Iraq has been mentioned just Sabi'i, Christian, and Yazidi. The change will be for these 3 minorities.
Okay, so the
Yes.
Iraqi constitution specifically mentions Christians, Yazidis, and Sabaeans. So the government in Baghdad is willing to make the curriculum inclusive of those groups, but not of all the other
Yes, but we
minorities.
are working, and there are some people backing us, especially among the parliament and also some even prime minister.
Okay,
Yes.
well, it's very important work. And this is tell us what this is. I know what this is.
This is one of the things that I am very proud because I am the first woman, Kurdish woman, translating the Gatha.
So this is your book. This is the
Yeah.
cover of your book.
Thanks to Dr. Dariush Jahanian, unfortunately he's not here. He gave me the chance to translate his book, and it
So
was
you made this
published.
translation into
Yes.
Sorani Kurdish from Dr. Jahanian's translation, his
Yes.
English translation of the
Exactly.
Gathas.
Exactly,
And when did you publish this?
2019.
2019.
Yes.
Okay, great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What about this one?
This one is very important because it has been written in Arabic. During our workshop among whole Iraq, this book is talking about Zoroastrian. There is a lot of information. Where was Zarathushtra, and also talking about Bahar, and also our ceremonies, everything related to Zoroastrian, and also our temples, ancient places has been mentioned in this book.
So it's an introduction to.
Exactly. We distribute this booklet among the participants in the workshop and also in some conference in every part of Iraq, from Duhok to Basra.
Wow. So the Gathas translation, that's in Kurdish.
Yes,
So it's targeting Kurdish readers. This is in Arabic so that people throughout Iraq can read it. And you're doing workshops on minority rights, even
Yes.
in southern Iraq.
yes.
That's really amazing.
Yes.
It's really. This is an award. You're receiving an award.
Yeah, this is an award by a woman, Zoroastrian woman. She's belong to now Zarathushtra Kurdistan. It means the center of Zoroastrian, Kurdish Zoroastrian. I was awarded because I have a lecture in front of Prime Minister of Kurdistan about Zoroaster. And there were 8 minorities participated in this meeting, but the Prime Minister honored the Zoroastrian that they will build the biggest temple in the Middle East for Zoroastrian.
So you had a meeting with the Prime Minister of the Kurdistan region, and he promised to build you a Zoroastrian temple.
Temple, yes.
Has he started this?
We are working on this issue, and because we are in Kurdistan facing some financial crisis.
Right.
I hope, but still he is with the project.
Well, the thing we know about prime ministers and presidents is you have to make them keep their promises.
Yes.
So Don't give up.
Yes.
What's happening here? It's a big cultural event.
Yeah, this is the last Yalda celebration in Kurdistan. It was a big ceremony held by Ministry of Culture. 17 organizations participated in, some Zoroastrian organization that they are in Soleimania participated in it. And it was very great event.
Yeah, I see some. So how many organizations participated in this?
17.
17.
Yes.
And the Ministry of Culture was organizing it for them. And I see the logos.
And this is not the first time that this minister held this
So
ceremony.
it's pretty amazing that the Ministry of Culture is promoting Zoroastrian events and creating an ability for Zoroastrian organizations to come together and produce an event like this
Exactly.
together. I see the logos of some of the organizations there. Do you know what some of the Zoroastrian organizations are that
Yeah, Mary
participate?
organization and also Yasna.
Mary and
Yeah,
Yasna?
Mary and
Okay.
Yasna.
I've heard that there is some competition between some of these organizations and some conflict between them. I'm assuming that's not very helpful for this movement. And what's your opinion about that?
Yeah, there are some, but as we see in the picture, when I met with Prime Minister, an organization I worked with. So
Mhm.
it means that not
There's some
all-
cooperation between
exactly
them as well.
And inside the Anjuman, there are some organizations working together.
Mhm.
So there are some, like you say, misunderstanding with each other. But the most important thing that all these organizations working on the same goal and the same direction. This is the important thing
Mhm.
that we are.
Mm. Yeah, unity always helps to accomplish something. What's this ceremony here?
This ceremony held in Kasankapan. Kasankapan is an ancient places belong.
Oh, hold your microphone up to your.
Sorry. This ceremony held in Kasankapan. Kasankapan is a famous place in Kurdistan near Soleimania. It is a Zoroastrian ancient place. We held a lot of ceremony there. And Nawandi Zarathushtian, or the center of Zoroastrian, held Mehergan ceremony in this place. And all these people belong to Nawandi Zarathushtian.
So you're holding religious ceremonies in ancient Zoroastrian cultural sites in the country.
Yeah, because we don't have a formal temple, so we do it there in order to introduce ourselves and introduce our ancient place that we were here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Aha, and we have your ceremony.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
This place is a Sasanian temple. It's I think it's more than 1,500 years old. I decide to make my Kushti ceremony inside a temple, and I was fortunate to find this place and held my Kushti ceremony in this temple.
When was this?
It was in 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So you had been a Zoroastrian since the 1990s, but this was the first time you had an opportunity to do a ceremony like this.
Yeah, because I want to prove I am real Zoroastrian, then I have to put the Kushti. Because when I put the Kushti, I promise, so I have to do that.
Aha. So instead of wearing it first and becoming Zoroastrian, you
Yes.
wanted to become Zoroastrian
Exactly,
and then,
Exactly.
okay. How many people are there in Kurdistan who can perform a ceremony like this?
About 5 person. Unfortunately, we lost one of them this year, Big Camel,
Mm.
but 5 person made this ceremony.
So
in
this one, he
Kurdistan.
passed away.
Yes.
And so is there someone like this in the different organizations that are
Yes.
working?
Yes.
Well, it's been amazing to see these images of your work in Iraq and the people that you're working with. I just want to close with a couple final questions. First of all, what kind of things do the Kurdish Zoroastrians need to help them develop as followers of this faith?
Thank you for this question. It is a very important question. So I am here. Really, we in Kurdistan are in need to be backed by Zoroastrian community in the world. And we need a lot of matters, like we need some training. We need some books because we face lack of source. And we need some training in Avesta language because we want to do our ceremony like reading Ashanvahu, Yata, Ahu, and also Yangi Hatam in Avesta language.
So how can Zoroastrians around the world best support Kurdish Zoroastrians in Kurdistan?
First, we want to be, like you say, there will be a central part or central organization to work with the Kurdish Zoroastrian in order to work together, to collect us together, and also our ceremonies not be separated. We do it as Fazana, as another organization do it. And as I told you, we need to be supported by Zoroastrian in the world because, as I told you, we need a temple to be built. This temple needs people to be educated in Gathas, in Avesta, and every issues that related with Zoroastrian. All in
So proper religious
exactly
education.
proper religion education. Exactly.
Faiza, it has been such a joy and an honor to speak with you today and hear your story. Thank you so much for being here. So as time allows, we will open it up for questions. If you have questions for Faiza, please don't be shy. Ask her some questions and we'll do this until the powers that be tell me that we're out of time. I see a lot of hands coming up, but the lights are in my eyes. So whoever has the microphone, oh, the lady in green.
Hello?
Okay. I just want to know, is there an organization, how we can donate money or anything, how we can help?
He wants to know, is there an organization to donate money to, how to contribute?
No, there isn't any organization donates money. No, we don't have.
Well, I think he's asking how they can contribute to the development of this movement. Does it come down to coordinating with people about specific projects?
Yeah, this is one of the matter that our organizations in Kurdistan are in need to, in order to make a lot of things in order to introduce ourselves, to make some lecture in the universities, among the people, who are greedy to be Zoroastrian.
I've seen humanitarian and development work in Iraq and Kurdistan for a lot of years. I've worked in it. And one of the things that's very helpful is when donors themselves come and visit and can participate and supervise in some of the development work that takes place and how that funding is used. So it's really important to maintain close relationships with the people doing that kind of work. Someone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Ali Mackey, and I'm part of the leadership of the California Zoroastrian Center formerly, and the Zarathushtrian Assembly. A few years ago, when we were approached to help materially and spiritually and getting this movement forward, we were very excited. Over time, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of mudslinging, a lot of internal conflicts, and also some fabrication of history. I read articles saying that Avestan is ancient Kurdish, this Zarathushtra is Kurdish. There's a sense of nationalism, which is natural to take place when people are refining their heritage or reclaiming it. But how are you ensuring that proper information and education is given to people and a sense of unity is provided? And some of the factions that have formed or are using Zoroastrianism as a vehicle for their causes, some of them violent, how are you ensuring that that doesn't happen?
Do you understand his question? I would recommend, there's going to be a second panel this afternoon at 3:30. I'm going to be giving a lecture that provides a historical overview of the Kurdish Zoroastrian movement. I think that would be a better forum to go into the discussion of the nationalist issues, nationalism, historical issues, some of these things. He said that his organization was approached and asked to help support what's happening in Kurdistan, but over time, he sees some things that are concerning to him, some things that are very worrying to him. One thing is conflict between groups. Yeah, do you have any comment about that?
Yes, really conflict among groups is not a big issue, as I told you, because when we create the assembly of Zoroastrian, Kurdish Zoroastrian, there are a lot of organization participated in this assembly, and we are working, the work that I mentioned then, we are working together, and I have been chosen by this assembly in order to represent the Zoroastrian. So yes, as I mentioned, there are some issues, but it not means that the Zoroastrian live in very bad situation against each other.
There's someone here.
Good morning. First of all, thank you very much for his effort being here and letting us everything that's happening. I can feel the same thing that we had it in Iran. I'm talking about maybe 100 or 80 years ago, and we were not allowed to go to the school because we were not Muslims. And then there are many other discrimination. I can have quite feeling of what you're going through. So I feel responsibility toward the Fezana and especially other association to join together and help them as much as they can. Because during that time, we had Monokulimji Hatria and many other parties that they help, especially Bombay Parsi Panchayat and others. So right now, in absence of those one, we feel responsibility to help them as much as we can. And thank you very much for letting us all the problem and everything. And I hope that we can help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Homi Gandhi. Here, right here.
Yes.
My name is Homi Gandhi, and during the time of Kurdish who were persecuted about 5 years ago by Turkish president and the military in Iraq and Syria, Turks were persecuted and they were attacked. There were demands made and appeals made for sending the funds, and we tried to send the funds. Now, sending the funds by visiting there is not very practical. So people donate to an organization and they will send the funds. But the funds were difficult to be transmitted to the organization because of the banking facilities were not adequate. Is there banking facilities adequate now to transfer those funds? Thank you.
He wants to know if the banks in Iraq and in Kurdistan can facilitate international transfers.
Yes. Yeah, you can, or anybody can do that because as Zoroastrian organization, we have a bank, have been registered in the bank, and this work can be done in transparency. And you mentioned that in Syria, and I don't know, this person mentioned in Syria, yes, this is one of the important things that I want to talk about. Afrin city, when Afrin city liberated, they built the first statue for Zoroaster, and a lot of people were Zoroastrian participating in or doing Zoroastrian ceremony. But when Turkey attacked Afrin, they ruined everything belonged to the Zoroastrian. Even he declared in public that these people should be killed because they are Zoroastrian. So people in Afrin are in need if anyone want to help these people because they are in bad situation, especially the Zoroastrian.
About donations, I think it's important to work it out directly with the people you want to work with, rather than something for us to discuss here. Just, I do encourage you, know who you're donating to and be involved, remain involved so that you're part of that.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I do make a comment about the nationalism issue that the prior questioner brought up? I think it's important just to make a few quick observations about this. First of all, there are definitely going to be different interpretations of history among people of different people groups. And this evolves over time. And it's definitely not always comfortable. Some of the ways that Kurds at this moment in their history are interpreting their history may not be comfortable for other Zoroastrians. And some of the interpretations of Zoroastrianism have been felt as exclusionary by the Kurds. Part of this is just a time delay. It's a gap in terms of what scholarship has become available and started to make an impact on the society. It wasn't until the 1990s that a lot of literature could really become available in Kurdistan. And a lot of the scholarly works on ancient history that Kurdish Zoroastrians had been reading during the 20th century were 19th century works of Western scholarship. I know that some of those works have had negative impacts on this community in general. For the Kurds also, there's that delay in terms of getting these new ideas. The idea that Zoroaster lived in the Iranian East, which I think is now accepted by scholars, is it's a later development. Earlier, there was a lot of assumption that Zoroaster was from northwestern Kurdistan. That's still the assumption that a lot of Kurds are operating with, and it has to do with the access to ideas and information and knowledge that has been available in text. So there's definitely a growing pain as people become aware of new knowledge and interpret that and what it means for them. In terms of it being nationalist, yeah, there is definitely a nationalist element to this movement, and that's a product of the legacy of suffering and violence that Kurds have endured. So seeing a tradition that they believe can help restore their dignity and sense of value as human beings definitely has a nationalist tone at the moment. And I think that I'm already seeing with time now, the nationalism kind of subsiding among a lot of people who are starting to focus more and more on Zoroastrianism as a religion. I'll just mention that. 3 more questions, and then you can continue to talk with us outside in the foyer because I know there'll be a lot of questions. Okay. I don't know who's next in line. There are a lot of hands.
Thank
Okay,
you very
yes, ma'am.
much to the moderator as well as to Faiza for having shared with us your journey through to Zoroastrianism and what you've been able to achieve and to promote. You're a very, very brave woman and deserve, our admiration for all that you have done. I have 2 questions. One is, what is the size of the Zoroastrian population in Kurdistan today? Can you give us some sense of the numbers, if you can? And secondly, it's wonderful that Zoroastrianism is being recognized as a religion, but how much equality do you have before the law? Like, can a Zoroastrian one day hold a high office? And finally, I would just like to comment that your emphasis on education is really noteworthy and very much needed, because there is so much need for changes in knowledge, in attitude and practices. And I think that the Zoroastrian children who go to schools and are subject to discrimination and, all that goes with it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The first question was what is the size of the population of Zoroastrians in Kurdistan?
Size of population of Zoroastrian is more than 100,000. Yes.
I might interject that no one's keeping track. So this is,
Really, because it is separated among, and because none in Iraq or in KRG, we don't have, like you say, registration. And this is one of the problems that not only the Zoroastrian, some other minorities are suffering in that, because we cannot,
microphone up.
we cannot be registered when we issue our identity to mention that we are Zoroastrian.
Okay, so if no one's keeping track, if no one's doing this registration, then how
Yes.
do you arrive at this number?
Yeah, through the people who come to participate, or the people who want to come to the Zoroastrian organization, and also people who participate in our
So
ceremonies.
this is a personal impression. You have the sense, you have the
Yes.
feeling that it's very
Yes,
large.
exactly, as I told you, but because the number is big, we have the representative of Kurdistan mentioned that they are more than 35,000, 35,000 people. So this is something formal, but it's not the right number.
Okay.
No.
And the second question was,
Equality before law.
yes, so can a Zoroastrian hold a political office in the country? That was one of the things she asked, was can they have a position in the government?
In KRG, it's okay, really. This is one of the issues that we are working in order to get quota in parliament. This is one of the things that we are working.
So a reserved seat, a goal is to get a reserved seat in parliament. That would be,
Parliament.
because some of the other religious minorities have parliamentary seat quotas that are designated for them.
Yeah,
So it's one of the,
we have got a lot of workshop because KRG now writing their constitution.
Mhm.
So we, with some minorities working on that, in the parliament, there are quota for some minorities. We want to increase this number in order to include Zoroastrians in the parliament also.
that was kind of a long question. Should we do just one more?
Hello. My name is Farhad Sidwa. I have a question. A few years ago, I was reading a news article, and the head of the Turkish government, Erdogan, who is currently in power, mentioned Zoroastrians as terrorists. And then I read further that he's associating this Kurdistan national movement with what is my religion. So how is this thing being mixed up, and what has Turkey to do with it? Is it you are enlarging yourself into Turkish region now and trying to create a nation of your own in the name of religion? So please clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, to begin with, it's important to mention that Faiza is not from Turkey, nor does she belong to that political movement, that particular militant movement, which itself is a reaction to decades of Turkish oppression of the Kurdish people in Turkey. He's asking, he was very shocked to see Erdogan call Zoroastrians terrorists,
Yes.
because he was conflating terrorists with PKK and then just calling all of them terrorists. So he wonders what your comment is about that.
I think no one in
Hold
the
your
wo-
microphone up.
no one in the world know Erdogan, and be sure that he is the most terrorist person in the world. So if you hear a terrorist mention people as a terrorist, be sure they are honest people. And Erdogan is the last person to mention that Zoroastrian is terrorist, because in all our history, we did not participate in any war to kill any nation in order to force our religion.
All right, so there's going to be
final
a lecture at 3:30 this afternoon about also about the Kurdish Zoroastrian movement. There are some other great panelists at the same time. You might want to go to them instead of mine.
Our
I'll-
final questions here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a real quick question. Thank you, both of you, for this panel, of course. Most of my research in regards to Kurdish Zoroastrianism has revolved both in the mostly in the Iraqi region, but also in northern Syria and Rojava, and also in western Iran. Do these Zoroastrian communities that you mostly work with in Iraqi Kurdistan have connections and communication with the Zoroastrian groups, movements, and individuals in, say, Rojava or western Iran?
Is that a question for her?
Yes, for Ms. Fawad. Thank you.
Yes, we have a good relation with these people because when Rojava people forced to flee from Turkish attack, some of them came to Kurdistan and participated in the Zoroastrian organization, and we have a good relation with them. Also with people in west part of Iran or in West Kurdistan, these people, we have a good relation. And when I published my book, I sent some copies of my book to them, to be sent to them, because they are Zoroastrian and we cooperate each other.
Thanks so much.
Let's have another round of applause for Faiza and Matthew for giving us such a great exposure to the movement of Zoroastrianism in Kurdistan.